All right. So let's really think about this. If you had to write the most important chapter of your life, like right now, what's the one single thing you'd want people to know about who you really are?
That's a deep question. Maybe a bit tricky, right?
Yeah.
But it's really the core mission of what we're doing today. We've got these sources, articles, notes, almost like a map, really.
hmm
And they give us a kind of blueprint for exploring your personal identity,
hmm
for figuring out how to write your own life story. We're not just going to summarize them, though.
Yeah.
We want to pull out the essential bits, the key ingredients you actually need to define yourself clearly, powerfully. Get past just the surface stuff.
And getting past the surface, that's the real challenge, isn't it? Because a life story, it's not just a list of facts, like where you were born, what school you go to.
Right, not just the timeline.
Exactly. It's fundamentally about how your experiences, the things that happen to you, actively shape who you are. So for you listening, this deep dive, it's going to map out 4 key areas you really need to think about.
Okay, what are they? Well, first, your family and traditions. Then, your culture and language. Third, your sense of identity and belonging, like where do you fit in?
hmm
And finally, how your personal story connects to your community.
mm
School, friends, maybe even the wider world. It's about finding the thread that kind of ties all those pieces together.
I think that thread, finding it and then actually putting it into words, that feels like the hardest part for anyone,
hmm
especially when you're like figuring things out, changing fast, you know who you are inside, but saying it, that's tough.
Absolutely. And the first thing the sources do is help clarify what that blueprint needs, beyond just the basic facts. It's easy to say, I like video games and hanging out with friends, but how do we get deeper? What's that aha moment?
Yeah, exactly. If we're moving past the simple stuff, what specific things have to be in there to make the story feel, well, real, authentic?
Okay, so the sources say you need four core things. First, your background, your heritage, where you come from.
Got it.
Second, those key life experiences. And that means the good stuff and the tough stuff,
Yeah.
the wins and the losses.
Okay. Makes sense.
Third, the values or lessons you've learned along the way, things you carry with you.
Right.
And fourth, this is critical how you actually see yourself fitting into your community, your place in the world around you.
Mm.
Think like building a house. Anyone can list the materials, wood, bricks, whatever, but only you can explain what makes that house feel like home. It's the meaning behind it all.
That's a great way to put it. The meaning. Okay, so how do we get to that meaning? The Searses push us a bit, don't they? They give us some specific questions to start with.
They do. Four critical starting questions. And these aren't, yes, no questions. They need real thought, complete sentences even.
Okay, let's hear them.
These questions are really the analytical core. They force you to look inward. So the first one is, what do you want people to understand about who you are? Really forces you to prioritize, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Pick the main thing. Okay, what's next?
The second one is about place, which I find really interesting too. Which place or places shaped you the most? It connects identity to your environment.
Huh. So that could be like the town where you grew up. Or maybe, I don't know, the library where you discovered your favorite books. Or the park.
It could be any or all of those.
Yeah.
The point is that place isn't just a backdrop. It's like an active character in your story. Now, the third question. This one can be tough, especially when you're younger.
Okay.
What challenges or turning points changed your perspective? We all have those moments, big or small, that kind of shift how we see things. But writing them down, that takes some guts.
It really does. You have to be a bit vulnerable, I guess. Okay, and the last one.
The last one circles back a bit. What strengths or values do you carry from your family? So you see, these four questions together, they really make you think critically about how you've grown, what you've inherited, the good stuff, maybe some struggles too, and how that builds the structure of your story. Count hashtag the power of cultural voice.
Okay, so we've got this foundation strengths from family, thinking about who you are. Now, where does culture fit into all this? The sources seem to put a lot of weight on that.
Oh, absolutely. Culture and language are huge in shaping identity. We have to look at the world you move through every day.
Right. So let's dig into that a bit. Like, if you speak more than one language, how does that work? How does that connect you to your culture or maybe even cultures?
Yeah, and how do things like traditions or celebrations,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff people can often see,
Mm.
how do those things show who you are?
Mm-hmm.
What's really cool is that the sources talk about cultural keepers. And sometimes these aren't big, obvious things. Sometimes it's the quiet, everyday stuff,
Like what?
like food, The specific meals your family makes, or music, the songs that make you feel connected to where you or your family came from, or even just the stories people tell around the table.
Ah, okay. So the music you listen to, the food you love,
Yeah.
that's not just random preference. It's like actively marking your identity.
Exactly, they're markers. They connect you across time, maybe across generations. They keep the culture alive in small, everyday ways.
The sources give an example, right, Samira? Her story really shows how complex this can be, having more than one identity.
Yes, Samira's story is powerful. He was originally from Syria, speaks Arabic and English, and her life experience.
Mm.
It's intense. Fleeing conflicts, that whole journey, and then rebuilding her life in Canada.
Wow.
So she faced this huge task,
Yeah.
right? How do you hold on to your Syrian traditions, the things that are deeply part of you, while also navigating this new Canadian culture?
That sounds incredibly difficult, like trying to balance two different worlds inside you.
It is, but her conclusion is really insightful.
Yeah.
She realized she didn't have to choose. She could be both.
Mm.
She felt deeply Syrian and deeply Canadian, and she was proud of holding both those identities together.
That's amazing.
And it leads to a really important question the sources pose for everyone, no matter your background. What does it actually mean to have more than one cultural identity? It really makes you think about what belonging feels like.
Yeah. And it makes me think about legacy too, like passing things down. If food and stories are these cultural keepers, how does culture actually connect generations?
Well, think about it. If your grandma teaches you a recipe that her grandma taught her, and then maybe you teach it to your little brother or sister or a friend, you're not just sharing food. You're literally building a bridge, a cultural bridge across time using that recipe. It's tangible.
Okay, this is great conceptually,
Hmm.
but let's get practical. How do you actually write this stuff down? The sources break it down into steps, right? Writing tasks.
They do, which is super helpful. It moves it from just thinking about it to actually doing it, creating something concrete.
So it's part one.
Part one is all about defining yourself through those family stories we talked about. So you write about who you are, where you come from, and then you include a specific meaningful family story or a tradition that really shows a value you learned.
Ah, like the anecdote they use. It was so simple, but said so much. Something about a grandmother.
Exactly, it was. My grandmother taught me the value of patience through her stories. Even though she never went to school, she showed me the importance of knowledge. See how much is packed in there.
Yeah. Heritage, maybe struggle, a core value, impact. All in like 2 sentences.
Right. It moves beyond just saying my grandma was patient. It shows it. So that's part one. Part two then shifts a bit into cultural identity in practice.
Okay, what does that mean?
It asks you to look forward. Reflect on the cultural practices you personally want to carry on, maybe pass on someday. And then, this is key, it asks for 2 kinds of memories.
2 kinds.
A time when your culture made you feel really proud, like bursting with pride. And a time when it made you feel different, maybe even a bit excluded.
Ooh, okay. Why both? Why include the time you felt different? That seems kind of tough.
Well, because identity isn't always easy or comfortable, right? And learning how to navigate situations where you feel like the only one or where your traditions aren't understood, that shapes you just as much as the proud moments.
Ah, I see.
The sources suggest you build resilience, maybe empathy in those moments. And that's a crucial part of your story, too. It shows how you learn to navigate the world.
Okay. So we've got the core self, family stories, cultural practice, both pride and difference. What's the next step? Part 3.
Part 3 zooms out. It shifts focus from you and your family to the wider world around you, your community, your contribution.
Community like school, friends, teams.
Exactly. School, sports teams, clubs, maybe volunteer groups, your neighborhood, any group you're part of. It asks you to reflect on your role in those groups. How do you contribute? How do you make a difference? Even a small one.
So it's not just about being in the group, but what you do in the group.
Precisely. It's moving from just participating to considering your impact. Like that example they gave about the basketball team.
Oh yeah, I remember that. When I joined the basketball team, I learned teamwork is more than winning.
It's about support and trust.
Right.
That's a value learned through community interaction. Trust becomes something you actively practice with others.
Got it.
And part 3 also asks you to think about belonging again, but in that community context, a time you felt really included, welcomed, or maybe a time you felt left out,
Yeah.
excluded, and critically.
What did you learn from that experience?
So every interaction, good or bad, teaches you something. Fundamentally, yes. About people, about groups, about yourself. And that learning belongs in your story. #tag refining the story, the feedback loop.
Okay, so you've done all this thinking, all this writing. You've poured your heart out onto the page. You've got this deep, complex story. Are you done then?
Not quite. The sources really emphasize one more crucial step: sharing it, getting feedback.
Ah, the feedback loop. Why is that so important here?
Because your story isn't just for you, right? It's about how you present yourself to the world. Feedback helps you see if the story you intended to tell is the story people are actually hearing. It helps you find more depth, more meaning.
Okay, but feedback can be tricky. Sometimes it's just, yeah, it's good, which isn't very helpful.
Right. So the sources suggest being really specific. Share your written story with a partner, a friend, a classmate, a family member, and ask them 3 very targeted questions.
Targeted questions. Okay, what are they?
First, what idea or image stood out to you the most? This helps you know if your key details are actually memorable and impactful.
Okay, makes sense. What's number 2?
Second, does my story clearly show how identity and culture shape me? This is like the big check. Did you actually get past the surface facts? Does the meaning come through?
Right. Did I achieve the goal? Okay. And the last one.
The last one is about improvement. What could I add or maybe change to make my story stronger? This is where you get ideas for adding depth, maybe connecting ideas you hadn't linked before.
So it's not just about finding mistakes, like spelling errors.
Not at all. The key takeaway from the sources about feedback is this: it's about refining your message, ensuring that the core of who you are, the identity you wanted to define, is actually coming across loud and clear. You're using someone else's eyes to sharpen your own voice. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground, from that initial big question about defining yourself, through understanding the life story blueprint,
Tackling those 4 core questions.
then digging into cultural keepers, family values, Samira's story.
And finally, connecting it all to community, getting that crucial feedback.
Yeah, it really feels like a whole journey of self-discovery laid out.
And I think the big takeaway, the idea that echoes through all this material, is really powerful. Your story, it isn't just about looking back at the past. It's not just a record.
Is it then?
It's fundamentally about who you are becoming right now.
Ah,
Every choice you make, every tradition you decide to keep alive, every time you contribute to a group, you're actively writing the next line of that chapter.
That's a really cool way to think about it. You're writing it as you live it.
Exactly.
Which I guess leaves us with one last thing for you, the listener, to think about. A final, provocative thought to chew on as you keep writing your own chapters.
Okay, here it is. If your identity is constantly being shaped, like we said, by challenges and new perspectives, what's the single biggest challenge you're facing right now? This week, maybe this month. The one thing you know deep down is really going to shape or define the person you'll be in, say, 5 years. Think about that challenge. And then think about how you're going to write that part of your story.